Good evening and welcome to our show. I'm Gail Burke. I'm here with my co-host, Elliot Margolis, and this is What's Happening. Before we start our show, I would like to make a public service announcement, you might call it. It's the top of the page, and I wanted to inform the people in the community about a large grassroots effort that is being made to allow the citizens of Massachusetts to vote on whether we should keep Common Core from in our public schools. We need 100,000 signatures in order to get our petition on the ballot, on the 2016 ballot. Petitions are being circulated throughout the state. I urge you to sign the petition. If you wish to help with the signature drive, you can contact Michael Gendry at 978-273-7772. Tonight we have with us a member of the City Council, Jim Latta. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thanks for having me. Always good to see you guys. I've been on here a few times, and
Yes, you have.
always look forward to it.
Thank you very much. I wanted to start off with a question about money that the state gave to Beverly. They gave $206,475 in 2012 to become a green community. By combining money with rebates from National Grid, we were told we would save $50,000 per year. How much money has the city saved by going green?
Full disclosure, I come on here and I don't get any prep on these, so I have to go off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly
An estimate, yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how much
Sure.
money we've saved, if we've saved a whole lot at all.
Okay.
I think it's important that all endeavors, whether it's composting at home, whether it's doing things in your business, whether it's doing things as a municipality, that we do things to conserve energy, that we do things to recycle more. It has put some burdens on the community. I know that we used to recycle some of our vehicles from the police department down to other areas that we're constrained in ways that we can do that, and we're buying other vehicles that do fit into the green community aspect of it. So, I mean, we've gotten some money. Have there been some savings? There's probably been some savings in fuel efficiencies. I don't know if we've saved a ton of money by the endeavor, though.
Can you get back to me with it when you
I
find out?
can get a number and
Okay, I'd like to know. Just out of curiosity.
I can peruse. Next time I come on, I should bring the budget with me. That way, I can flip it open and take a look
Sure.
at some different
Oh,
stuff.
that'd be great.
But I can find out. Sure.
Okay.
All right, Jim, as you heard Gail talk about Common Core,
Yep.
and I know you used to be on the school committee,
Yep.
so you probably know something about Common Core, but the question is, would you sign the petition to allow people to vote on whether or not they want to have Common Core?
I don't know. Let me start by saying nobody wants more testing time in our schools. At the same time, we want to have metrics to see if our schools are efficient. That was the big argument behind putting MCAS out there and making MCAS a statewide standard. I think Common Core is an eventual outgrowth of No Child Left Behind, and trying to bring those standards nationally. Whatever our communities decide, I think it is important that we have metrics. I think it's important that we figure them out well. I know one of my complaints with MCAS, and I don't know enough about Common Core to know if it's the same way, is you measure this year's fourth grade against next year's fourth grade, as opposed to measuring your kids in the fourth grade and taking that same cohort and measuring them a year later and seeing what kind of progress you're getting. Because in MCAS anyway, and I don't know if Common Core works the same way, you're measuring two different groups of kids against the same standard and trying to see if you make progress, and that never made sense to me. So,
Well, but Common Core is not the testing. MCAS is the testing, and PARC is the testing.
Okay.
So there's the difference.
and I think Beverly chose to go with PARC as opposed
they
to
did.
MCAS, and
Right.
and there was
But
some
this is
consternation about that.
Common Core. Common Core is the federal takeover of education, even though that has been argued. That's what it is. And Common Core drives PARC. Well, as a state, Massachusetts was #1 in education when we
Yep.
had the MCAS. We don't know because PARC is an experiment, and we won't know for a while. And yet, the Department of Education is going to vote on whether or not we keep Park or we go back to the MCAS. But the petition is about Common Core, and all it does is, because Common Core was thrust on us with no vote or any consideration at all. It all had to do with Race to the Top,
Yep.
which was a bribe to get states to sign on to Common Core. And what we're saying and what other states are saying is give the people the opportunity to vote on whether we want to keep Common Core or not.
And
And that's what the petition is.
And it's a statewide initiative, is that what I understand? It'll be on the
Yeah.
ballot in
Yes.
what, 16?
Next-
2016. Yep.
2016?
Yep.
Let's move on to some other issues.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Some-
I know there's some controversy around it. You guys obviously know a little bit more about the specifics of, the statewide education policy and some of the ramifications of it. I was pretty up to speed on some of the differences in the testing, but as far as where it goes after that and what the impact would be on our school budget, I'm not.
That is unknown.
And,
They don't know how much it's gonna
That's why
cost either.
we have a school committee that figures out the nuts and bolts of that stuff, and we have
Right.
some good people there.
All right. A couple of years ago, we voted, the council voted to increase the tax on food when you
The
go
meals
to
tax.
restaurants.
Yep.
The meals tax. What have we done with that? How much money do we get, and what have we done with it?
We get about, I'm going to ballpark this, I think it's between $500,000 and $600,000 a year in revenue. And, that's the kind of revenue here's a perfect example. We've increased the amount of money we put into paving our streets from $900,000 a year to $1.5 million. 1 year we did $2.4 million. We're putting projects into paving our streets as fast as the administration can handle the work. Right there, it's almost, we've put more money into, we wouldn't have been able to put as much money into paving our streets, which is one of the biggest things I hear knocking door to door, that we otherwise would not have been able to do if we didn't have that revenue stream.
How about the CPA? Is that a CPA?
The Community Preservation Act?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another tax that you've levied on us.
Well, actually, that was voted on by the Beverly taxpayers.
I understand, but how much money is that bringing in, and what's going on with that money? Is it worth the money we're paying? Because see, what you've done is you've increased our taxes, and then you've got the CPA, the state increases taxes, the state increases fees, the federal government increases taxes, and people have less and less money, and it's no wonder the economy's going down. So the question is that money worth what we're doing with it?
Well, if you remember, the increase in the meals tax was to counterbalance a cut in state aid. So from a city revenue point of view, that wasn't to give us more money. That was basically to keep us whole so that we wouldn't have to make more drastic. I mean, we all remember what it was like 6-8 years ago, and we had some drastic cuts, and we consolidated elementary schools, we consolidated middle schools, we laid off teachers, we increased class sizes.
You
Well-
increased class sizes only by a few, and it was only in some schools.
No, across the board, our class size minimums went from, I think, elementary school first and second grade went from 21 to 25. It could be 22 to 25. I don't know. This is 8
Yeah,
years ago.
That's not a huge amount of increase.
Well, it's 4
though.
kids per class.
It's still not a huge amount of
I
increase.
But
think if you ask a teacher, they'd say having 4 extra kids in a class is a big deal.
It's
Anyway,
the purpose. Yeah, but the purpose is to cut waste and make you more efficient.
Back to the CPA. There's been some good projects that have gone on with that. Bathhouses at Aubert Park, bathhouses at Lynch Park. Those are the kind of things that people really want us to do. There's the Camp Paradise purchase, which that'll add to open space. That'll add to our recreational opportunities in the city of Beverly. That keeps that from going into a subdivision development, which I don't know if we want more multi-bedroom homes in Beverly. It adds to our student population. It adds to other burdens. So there were some good things done there. I don't know if people actually envisioned that kind of a purchase with the CPA. I think the administration was a little bit creative with that. I'd like to see more stuff like what Peabody did with the rail trail and Danvers and things, recreational opportunities that you can see in real time. But, I think we'll get some good recreational opportunities out of Camp Paradise as well.
I wanted to ask a question
I
about
do want to see, I'm going to lobby right now, I do want to see more CPA money go into the carriage house. I think that's a great asset for the city. I know we've funded the doors that go out into the Cove a couple of times now. I still haven't seen the doors. I'm looking forward to that. I think that carriage house and that whole Lynch Park area is a great asset, and I look forward to seeing it improved. And whether you agreed with the CPA initially or not, I think that given that it exists, that's the kind of project that those funds should go to.
Now you know the purpose of the question.
I wanted to ask a question about the regional vocational school. How many students from Beverly have actually been admitted, and what is the cost to the taxpayers per student?
It varies. I've seen numbers that have gone from 80 to 120, 130. I think it costs a little bit more than regular education. I think our regular ed number, don't quote me on this, but if our regular ed number is $12,500, $13,000 a year, I think our voc number is 14 to 15. So it is somewhat more.
Are we full as far as our capacity, or is there a waiting list of kids that want to get in, or are we not sending as many kids as we thought were going to go there?
I know there's an allocation that goes out to each of the communities. I think it's somewhat Byzantine how they figure it out. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I do know that a number of Beverly kids go there. From my time on the school committee, I know my stepdaughter went there when it was the North Shore Tech, and it is competitive, but I don't know if kids that are otherwise qualified to go there are being put on a waiting list or not. I do know some kids want to go there, and that it is an admission school. They apply, and for whatever reason, they might not be eligible to get in. But I don't know how many kids that are eligible to get in are then said, "You're a great student, we want you, but we don't have room for you." I don't know if that happens, or if it does, it doesn't happen that much.
Okay.
I know the promise of that school was that we could send more kids and it would cost us less money. And I remember at the public hearing, I asked Mayor Scanlon, how much are we going to save per student and how many students? He didn't respond.
Yeah.
So then I asked Marquis from Danvers, and he wouldn't respond. So from my perspective, we got the wool pulled over.
Beverly does have a representative on the North Shore Tech's school board. He'd be a great guest to come on the show, because a lot of this stuff because it's not focused on Beverly, a lot of this stuff happens at meetings outside of the area, and the press doesn't always cover it. And I know it was Dean Porcius for a while. I don't know if it still is, but I think that'd be a great opportunity, because I'd like to learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm a tradesman. I'm an electrician by trade. I think vocational education. I work in
It's
technology
great.
now.
It's critical. It's critical.
yeah,
There's no
absolutely.
reason why not every kid belongs in college.
Well, here's the important piece is that, back in my day and before that, some kids would go to the voc for like automotive or the trades, and then they get out of high school, they'd have their school hours done, and they'd go off in the trade. That doesn't exist anymore. Even if you want to go be, a carpenter, or an electrician, or a plumber, there's lifelong education. You're getting out of high school and then going to get an associate's degree, or in some cases, but these kids need more education to handle the technology that goes with all of these vocational trades today.
What are the hot button topics for Ward 3 this year?
I think traffic congestion is always a topic in Ward 3. I'm really looking forward to moving forward on the Route 1A construction project that goes right through the heart of our ward. It will be disruptive. The end result will leave us in much better shape. I'd like to see some appropriate development where the Friendlies used to be. I think that's a linchpin to that downtown area. It's been sitting fallow for a while, and now there's an example. It's been sitting fallow long enough that when somebody proposes to develop something there, the people that are in that neighborhood will be, well, we don't want that kind of development there. We kind of like it just the way it is.
Well, speaking of lying fallow, there's always the old...
I knew I was opening myself up.
the old McDonald's. What in heaven's name is happening with that? It doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
Well, I think the harbor master is finally going to move out of that into the new building. As we know, there was an agreement to put a restaurant in there. One of the abutters fought that decision in court and lost every step of the way until he got to the Supreme Court, and then he prevailed.
Yeah.
So the hope of putting the restaurant that everybody had talked about, which I was against, not that I'm against the restaurant, I think the lease terms that we gave him were more than generous, and you know, an acre of waterfront in Beverly, even under those constraints for $2,000 a month, I thought we should have gotten more.
It was kind of a big restaurant, too, for that area.
Yeah,
Because of the parking
I
problem.
think we're going to have a great opportunity in the long term in that whole area with the removal of the designated port authority. And my predecessor on the, not my predecessor, but one of my colleagues on the council, Brett Schetzel, did a lot of work on that designated port authority. I didn't understand it to that level of detail, and he, you know, he did a lot of groundwork on trying to open that property up to some appropriate development. We're not in a time that we're going to have the kind of industrial marine business down there the way the designated port authority was designed to encourage back in the 70s. I think moving towards a mixed-use commercial development down there is what we really need to do. I know the McDonald's is out to bid. They extended the bids. I hope we get some...
Something. It's an eyesore the way it is
I
now.
hope we get something, but I don't think we should take something just because it's
No,
something.
I don't. I agree.
And if we don't get an appropriate
Yeah.
bid, there's nothing wrong with rebidding that as
Yeah.
well.
Ever since Peter Fortunato was mayor, which goes back a
Yeah.
while, I have suggested to every mayor that we take Glover's Wharf, make a replica of the ship Hannah.
Yeah.
We are allegedly the birthplace of the American Navy, but nobody knows it.
Yeah.
Okay? You build the ship, then you go to Marblehead, and you find out where the ship was actually built in Marblehead. You build something there, and you have the ship travel from Marblehead to Beverly with a historical talk on the boat explaining why Beverly and Marblehead have this.
I'm going to tell you a funny story. I was at Marblehead Town Hall a couple of years ago with some friends, and the clerk of the works over there has taken it upon himself. He's an amateur historian, and he decided to tell the whole story about how Marblehead was the birthplace of the Navy and how other places' claims were all false. And he gets to the end of the pitch, and he says, "And where are you folks from?" And I looked him right in the eye and said, "I'm a city councilor from Beverly." I mean, that said,
You know,
yeah.
but here's the thing. As I said this to Bill Scanlon one time, Beverly is the place that you drive through to go from Salem to Gloucester. There's a lot of history in Beverly. George Washington slept here. You got the Cabots. You got the Balch House, but nobody knows it. And that would put us on the map. It would bring us hotels, and there's a lot of money into hotels.
I would really like to see a hotel in downtown Beverly. I'm disappointed that the hotel on the corner of Elliott and McKay didn't come to fruition. It's a tough market analysis. I mean, I think that, you know, I know Beverly wants a hotel.
But we got to have a reason to have it. Okay, now Cummings Center is a reason, but you know, hotels are looking for consistent. You know, that would bring tourists in.
Yeah, I've often wondered. I don't know if Beverly can be the tourist destination that Salem is.
No, but I'd like them to stop here.
Well,
And if they stop here, it's going to help our restaurants.
Yeah.
It's going to help our downtown area.
I think what we should do is maybe we should send this tape over to Salem, and everybody over in Salem who's had too much of Halloween this October, you can leave Salem to the tourists.
I was just
Come
gonna
on
say
over to
that.
Beverly.
That's
We've
right.
got some great restaurants.
Yeah, exactly.
We do have some great
Yeah, we do.
restaurants.
And,
We
you
do.
know, I know I go over to Salem and enjoy their restaurants every now and then, but you know, maybe this is the month that, and I think the chamber and I think different organizations that, you know, they should market that.
Yeah.
They should do a mailing to Salem residents once a year, right around this time, that says, "Hey, Halloween's coming. Everybody's going to be going over the bridge that way. Why don't you come on over this way?"
It's not as congested over here.
No, but we do get a bleed off.
Yeah, but I mean, you won't hit the traffic. Going through Salem in October is a nightmare.
Oh,
Absolute
Right. What
nightmare.
other issues do you see as important to Ward 3?
I know you'll get to it. I think, just handling the logistics of the middle school project will be a challenge, as was the high school project. We talked a little bit off camera earlier about sometimes issues that you look at citywide, and sometimes you focus on what are the issues, in your particular neighborhoods as a ward counselor. Over half of Beverly's children go to school every day in Ward 3. So not only do we have to deal with it educationally, we have to deal with it downtown logistically as well. And how we manage that, and what are the changes in traffic patterns from moving the kids from Briscoe over to Memorial at some point, and are we thinking of that? That neighborhood that's right behind the high school, down behind Dairy Queen, that's going to be in between there. And in this, I spoke to this the night of the bond vote. There's some real neighborhood issues that go around being the neighborhoods that support these schools that have to be addressed. And I hear a lot of that, and that's stuff that we need to be, that the administration, both the school and the city administration, they need to roll up their sleeves and do some work and make sure that they're enhancing and maintaining the quality of life in those neighborhoods.
I wanted to talk a little bit about smart growth.
Sure.
In Beverly. I have some friends that live down on Rantoul Street, and they're concerned about all the construction and the apartment buildings that are going in and what it's doing to the traffic and the number of cars down there.
Yep.
How far along are we with this smart growth business? Is it going to continue? I can see that it's going to cause a lot more congestion because of all the traffic.
I think the vision in downtown Beverly in smart growth is, if you want to have the vibrant streetscape and street scene that we talked about earlier, you need to have a critical mass of population. You need to have a population that is somewhat wealthy. When I say wealthy, I mean comparatively. These are the kind of people that get up every day, as I do, walk to the train, go into Boston. You try to get a condo or an apartment in Boston. It's I think a 2-bedroom apartment in downtown Boston's $4,000 a month. Mm-hmm. So you have people that have decent salaries that are being priced out of Boston. Let's make Beverly a nice alternative to them. Let's get those, as they've done in Somerville, as even areas in cities that have been, made fun of in the past. That, there's areas of Charlestown and Chelsea and in other areas, even some areas in downtown Lynn. Although I think Lynn could benefit by a lot of the stuff we were talking about as well. I think we need some critical mass. I'd like to see more development with commercial and retail on the street as opposed to residential on the street. I think that there's a couple of buildings that there was one. I think we should have held developers' feet to the fire a little more and said, if you want to put this kind of development, we need to get the kind of retail space to drive our streetscape the way we want, or maybe we need to wait until the economy changes a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds sounds like a better idea.
I think it's important that the development is within walking distance of the train. I think the further away you get from that, the less sense it makes. It's one of the reasons I worked with the neighborhood around the McKay School to try to find a development that would get an okay purchase price for the city, have some decent new growth numbers, but didn't overwhelm the neighborhood. I know some of those units that they were talking about were 50, 60 units. We got something smaller. Some of the neighbors wanted the smallest development possible, but that didn't give us the purchase price. It didn't give us the new revenue, and it gave us single-family homes that probably would have added more school children, which adds to municipal services.
And that's what I was going to say when you were talking about having apartments or condos that people could move into and then go to Boston.
Yeah.
That also can bring school children in. And
it's funny.
Not as many as a single-family home.
Anecdotally, I know that there's less children per unit. And I've actually got a little Post-it note that I've been meaning to ask our city planning director, Aaron Clausen. Can we find out exactly how many school children are in the Edwards School Depot Square, and Burnham Street Apartments. Let's use those three as a metric. And it's always been presupposed that if you support this kind of development, it really won't add to the school children population.
Well, it
But-
depends on how big the apartments are.
Well, they're mostly 1 and 2 bedrooms, which
Okay, I
don't.
mean, a two-bedroom, you could have
Yeah.
a couple of kids.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 kids.
One more
even.
question before
Yeah.
we run out of time.
Are we moving along that quick?
We're moving along that quick. You're a politician, you talk too much. But then again, all politicians
It's my
do.
avocation, not my vocation.
But we knew that
The-
going in.
Right. The tax classification is an issue, and one of the things
I mean,
that...
the bifurcated between the business and the residential?
Right.
Yeah.
But my question is, what percentage do you think the city should have as a goal between residential property and commercial property to make it fair for both?
I know historically, and Councilor Troubateras was always right on this, we have always adjusted the classification so that the percentage stays what it has been in the 6 years I've been on the council. What that is off the top of my head, I don't know. But we always adjust the rates, and it's not a ton, but we adjust it a little bit to keep those percentages the same as they've been. If you're saying that there should be a policy decision to make the commercial more or less, I mean, that's a conversation we can have. But right now, the policy decision has been to adjust the rates so that the percentage of revenue coming from commercial and the percentage of revenue coming from residential remains roughly the same.
In the research that I've done in years ago when I was in another town,
Yep.
80-20 seemed to be a good percentage. 80% residential, 20% commercial. Brings enough money in from the commercial
Yep.
to help the residential without overtaxing the businesses.
And
Because the businesses, you have to understand, they hire people.
Right.
Okay, very important. They pay higher taxes and more taxes, and we want to keep them as healthy as possible. Jim, almost out of time.
Yep.
You're running for councilor. Tell everybody why they should vote for you.
Yeah, I've been serving the Citizens Award 3 for 2 terms on the school committee, 3 terms on the city council. I enjoy the work. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy being part of the decision-making process. We've had to deal with some difficult challenges in Ward 3 over the past few years. I think we have some great opportunities here. I really want to see this Route 1A construction project through. I'm doing a lot of work with business owners and stakeholders, and that's going to be about a 2-year project going through. And I think it's important that we stay steady as she goes and make sure all those people have their needs met. And it's going to be a great project when it's done, and I think it's going to be important for us. And I'd like to be part of that project.
All right.
Very good. Good
And
luck.
we wish you luck.
Thank you very much.
And
Thanks
I know,
for having me.
I know that when I've seen you at work, you do your work.
I appreciate it.
Oh.
Thanks, Gail. Thanks, Elliot.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching. I hope this was educational for you. It gave you an idea of what's going on in the city of Beverly. And we will see you at the next show. Good night.